to all of our Hall of Fame inductees, as well as our award recipients, for changing the landscape of what we thought was conceivable for our sport, while also forever etching your imprint in all of our hearts. I would like to take this moment to recognize our co-directors of TTFCA, Mr. Steve McBride and Mr. Stuart Cantor. Y'all can wave. I also want to recognize our Vice President, Mr. Shelton Irvin. Say hey, he's waving back. And I would also like to ask all of our members of our Board of Directors to please stand and be recognized. At this time, I would like to introduce our Master of Ceremony, Mr. Don Garrett. He has been the announcer for ACU, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, and also for North Texas. And that he is going to be entering his 12th year of announcing for Texas Relays. He is also going to announce for the D1 national meet this year. He wanted me to mention that he is a huge track and field fan and that he's a lover of track and field, and I think that's really important to say because I think in this room we are all lovers and have that passion, and that's the common bond that we share, and that's what brings us together tonight to celebrate such a momentous occasion. So without further ado, we're going to get this thing kicked off, and Don Garrett will come and join us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shalindria. And I used to practice her name before I would go to track meets, I can tell you, so I'll make sure to get that correct. I want to thank the Texas Track and Field Coaches Association for the opportunity to MC these awards this evening. The last time I was at this same awards program, I was actually over in Dallas, and I was able to enjoy the dulcet tones of the great Bill Melton. Bill had a tremendous impact on me. He was the person that invited me to be a Texas Relays announcer. This will be my 12th year at the Texas Relays. One of the unique things about announcing is I'm used to being behind a microphone somewhere and nobody even knows what I look like. And you get used to that after a while. The only time I'm in front of a crowd typically is I do a lot of Sunday school teaching. So if I accidentally lapse into a lesson on Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, I will try to retract that and move on to something. Thank you. I don't get very many of those when I'm teaching class. So we're going to start off with our current and future stars. We're going to be looking at some of our high school and collegiate athletes of the year. Let's start off with the High School Girls Athlete of the Year, and she is here to receive the award this evening. Jasmine Moore, the nation's premier horizontal jumper from Mansfield Lake Ridge, won the Texas 5A long jump and triple jump for the third straight year in a row. Her wind-aided jump up 45 feet 4 1/4 inches with a wind of 3.8 meters per second behind it. At the Texas State meet was the number 3 all-time, all conditions high school jump. As a high school freshman, Jasmine set the record for a high school freshman. As a sophomore, she set the all-time record for a high school sophomore, and her wind legal jump of 44 feet 1 inch at the Texas Relays set the record for high school juniors, and we'll have a special award for her in that regard. So while Jasmine signed with the University of Georgia just 2 months ago, she still has her high school senior year to go and has her eyes set on the all-time high school triple jump. Our high school girls field athlete of the year, Jasmine Moore from Mansfield Lake Ridge. Chance to meet Jasmine earlier. Our granddaughter signed to play volleyball at the University of Georgia 2 months ago. So I'm hoping they will become fast friends at some point. The high school girls track athlete of the year is not here this evening. Kennedy Flannel of Alva won both the 100 and the 200 in the UIL 6A state meet and repeated the sprint double again in 2018. She was not able to be with us. She is now competing for the University of Texas. Another one of our athletes that is here this evening will be our high school boys field athlete of the year. Branson Ellis from Tyler Lee saved his best for last as he won the 6A pole vault with a new UIL #1 all-time vault at a UIL meet of 18.3 1/4. This is the #2 all-time high school vault in Texas history. Branson's PR, this was one thing I found particularly interesting, his PR improved almost 2 feet in his senior year. He went from 16.4 3/4 as a junior to 18.3 1/4 as a senior. He told me a little while ago he actually went 5 feet better from his freshman year to his senior year. Branson finished ranked #3 in the U.S. after his outstanding senior season. He's now competing for Stephen F. Austin State University. Let's give a big hand for Branson Ellis of Tyler Lee. I'm going to mention as well that Branson will be pole vaulting tomorrow at Texas A&M, and they're going to leave a little bit early, but he'll get a pass because he has to be up vaulting in the morning. The high school boys track athlete of the year not able to be here. Kaylin Barnes from Silsbee won the Texas UIL 4A 100 and 200 in both 2017 and 2018. He's now playing football for Baylor. Is unable to be here this evening. Kaylin Barnes from Silsbee, the winner of the high school boys track athlete of the year. The private school female athlete of the year, Kennedy Gamble from Houston Kincaid. At the Southwest Prep Conference meet, she won the 100, the 200, and anchored the first place 4x1 and 4x4 relays, playing a huge role in Kincaid winning the Southwest Prep Conference Championship. Kennedy is now the SBC record holder in both the 100 and the 200 after last season. Kennedy finished the year ranked #31 in the nation among high school competitors in the 100. She's now competing for Stanford University. She's not able to be here this evening. However, her coaches from Houston Kincaid will be accepting the award on her behalf. We move on now to the private school male athlete of the year. Creighton Carrozza from Austin St. Stephen's Episcopal had a brilliant final season at St. Stephen's as he won the Southwest Prep Conference titles in the 800, the 1600, and the 3200. And in doing so, he set a new SBC record in all 3 of those events on the same day, as well as anchoring the winning 4x8 relay. Notice SBC has a 4x8 relay. It might be something we'll want to consider in the future sometime for the UIL. Creighton also finished 3rd in the Texas Relay 1600 last spring against runners from all high school classifications. Although a senior this year at St. Stephen's, age ineligibility kept him from defending his titles, but he can still look forward to what will no doubt be a sterling college career. And that college career will be, as of 24 hours ago, he is committed to the University of Texas to run this coming year. Creighton Carrozza from Austin St. Stephen's. As befitting a distance runner, he's in the very back of the room. We'll have to take the longest run of anybody to get up here. A little bit of a side. I used to announce his mom and dad at track meets, so it makes me feel a little bit older there. The high school girls coach of the year. Katie Green coached Refugio to the state 2A girls championship as her team scored 62 points to win by the slimmest of margins over the 60 points scored by Vega. Coach Green coached a huge effort from Alexa Valenzuela, who won the 100, the 200, and the long jump, as well as anchoring the 3rd place 4x2 relay. This was the 7th state title for the Refugio girls, but the first one since 1992, when Refugio had a stretch of winning state 6 straight years in a row. Coach Green just finished her 9th year at Refugio and was able to coach the Bobcats back to the winner's podium for the first time in 26 years. Katie Green, the coach from Refugio. She is coming up here. She took the long way. Congratulations again to Katie Green of Refugio. Now, show I'm a true Texan when I can say Refugio instead of Refugio. So, High School Boys Coach of the Year, Juris Green, the head track coach at the Woodlands High School. They coached their second straight year of winning the 6A title. That included, of course, a national record in the 4x2 relay. Unfortunately, Coach Green is not able to be here with us this evening. Now we're going to move on to our collegiate athletes. Several of these cannot be here. Again, almost all the colleges have started their indoor competition right now. Several meets are going on around the state. And so we'll move very quickly through most of these. We do have a few of them that will be here this evening. The Collegiate Women's Track Athlete of the Year was Texas A&M's fabulous freshman Sammy Watson, who won the SEC 800, the NCAA 800, and the U.S. Junior 800 in one season. Sammy Watson, the winner of the College Women's Track Athlete of the Year. The College Men's Co-Track Athlete of the Year award went to the dynamic duo of Cameron Burrell and Elijah Hall of the University of Houston as Cameron won the NCAA 100 last spring with Elijah at 4/100ths of a second behind him, and Elijah won the indoor NCAA Division I 200. Again, they were unable to be here. The Collegiate Women's Field Athlete of the Year. This award goes to the NCAA Division I high jump champion Alexis Henry, who became the first ever UTA athlete to win a national championship at the national meet this last year. Alexis Henry of UTA. The Collegiate Men's Field Award goes to Tahar Tricky in his first season with Texas A&M from Constantine, Algeria. He was the SEC Outdoor Triple Jump Champion before going on to win the NCAA Division I Outdoor Triple Jump with a jump of 55 feet 1 inches. We'll move on now to the Collegiate Men's Coach of the Year. Ryan Dahl from Texas A&M Kingsville, the award winner this year, as he led the Javelinas to their first ever Division II National Men's Championship. Ryan Dahl from Texas A&M Kingsville. One other thing to note about that too, for all you track fans, everyone's a track fan out here. Texas A&M Kingsville will be hosting the NCAA Division II National Track Meet this year. The University of Texas will be hosting the NCAA Division I National Track Meet this year, and that's the first time I can remember in my memory Texas hosting both the NCAA Division II and the Division I meet in the same year. So it'll be a great year for track and field fans in Texas. A Collegiate Women's Coach of the Year, John Sauerhaig is the head track and field coach at UTA. After a highly successful running career at UTA, John would become the assistant track and field coach at his alma mater in 1989 and would become the head track and field coach in 1996. In the 22 years as a head coach, UTA has won 32 conference championships, and Coach Sauerhaig would coach 29 All-Americans. But he had never had an NCAA national champion until this last year when Alexis Henry won that. Coach Sauerhaig can't be here this evening. He's in College Station coaching UTA squad of the Ted Nelson Invitational. But here to accept the award on his behalf is Coach Brandon Berger, UTA's associate head coach, and Alexis's event coach. Under his tutelage, Alexis Henry became the UTA school record holder in the indoor and outdoor high jump and the indoor pentathlon and the outdoor heptathlon in her career as she is a senior this year at UTA. So Coach Sauerhaig and also Coach Brandon Berger. And that will be all of our awards for our current and future stars. Next, we're going to be moving on to a little bit older, but a little bit greater people. Some of our people that will be moving into the in our 10th annual Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame class. First of all, before we start with that, I would like any of the members, our current members, who are members of the Texas Track and Field Coaches Hall of Fame, please stand if you're a current member in that, have already received that award. I know Barbara Krausen's here. I think that's Roy Martin. Roy the robot back there. And now we'll move on to our Hall of Fame member class. We have 8 members to be inducted today. So we'll give an introduction of each, then we'll have a presentation by someone that they have requested to do so before we have the actual recipient come up and receive the award and give their remarks. Our first one will be Joe DeLoach. It was apparent from a very early age to Joe DeLoach's 11 older sisters and his older brother in Bay City that Joe was very, very fast. But it took his high school coach to realize that the 800 meters where he had competed at in the junior high was not his best distance and move him to the sprints. That junior high coach did not have a very good eye for sprinters, apparently. As a high school junior, Joe won the 100 and the 200, the 4A state meet. That year, he continued his stellar year as he won the 100 and the 200 at the National Junior Olympics. And then he followed that up with 3 golds at the Pan American Junior Games, winning the 100, the 200, and anchoring the 4x1. All of that before his senior year in high school. He returned to the state meet as a senior and won the 4A 200 in the time of 20.44. And during that season, he ran a fully automatic 20.24. Joe chose to attend the University of Houston to train under Tom Tellez and train beside Carl Lewis. His junior year at Houston would be a year for the ages. He first won the Southwest Conference meet, and some of you are old enough to remember the Southwest Conference that did exist at one time. Greatest ever. We have a fan back there, the Southwest Conference. His junior year, he won the 200 over a young upstart named Michael Johnson in the stunning time of 19.9. He would follow that up by winning the NCAA Division I 100 in a time of 10.03, but he was not finished yet. Joe would go on to win the U.S. Olympic trials and finish 5th in the 100. He gets to go to Seoul representing the U.S. in the 200. On September the 28th in Seoul, Korea, the 2 running mates that trained together, Joe DeLoach and Carl Lewis, squared off in the finals of the 200. Carl had never been beaten in an Olympic final, but on that fall day in Seoul, Joe came from behind to win the 200 meters in an Olympic record time of 19.75, fully automatic. Which at the time tied the fastest 200 meters ever run below altitude. Our presentation for Joe is going to be made by Speedy Gonzalez, and then we will have Joe himself up to make a few remarks. I'm going to leave this microphone on. So I'll leave it up here at Speedy. Speedy Gonzalez coming up. Yeah. Live up to your name there, Speedy. Yeah.
So, I get there eventually. Just thank God for being here today. I'm here to talk about Joe DeLoach, but, to Joe, he's just my friend. We go way back to high school. We used to joke. I went to Houston Sterling, and we were a little cocky over at Sterling back in the day, but we used to joke every time we show up at a meet and we see the Bay City van, and we would turn to the sprinters and say, "I'm glad I'm not y'all." Joe, he stated that Joe, everybody found out about Joe his junior year, which was, down in the Houston area. We had heard about Joe. We didn't have the internet at that time, so it wasn't, instant. I think it was like every Wednesday the Post-Chronicle come out with time, and everybody was like, "Who is this Joe DeLoach?" So the first time that we actually saw Joe was at the Rice Invitational. And for you old heads out here, you remember that used to be 1 week the boys, 1 week the girls. So it was all boys meet. And I was warming up for the half, and I'm running by, and I want to see, who is this Joe DeLoach? Now, for you guys that know Joe, Joe never wears socks. So I actually saw this guy standing over with the Bay City guys, and he didn't look like he had any he didn't look like the athlete that they were talking about. He kind of looked like that half miler that this gentleman was talking about. And you know, and over the years, I told Joe that he would probably ran faster than the 200 if he ran some 400s, but you know, he didn't want to do that. But Joe let everybody know that day at Rice who Joe DeLoach was. Now, that's Joe DeLoach, the runner. But Joe DeLoach, the friend, the man, was the guy after the race telling other sprinters, you know, if you'd have started like this, you probably would have beaten me. You know, because he's an overall nice guy. You know, and you just, I remember in 84, the next year, we were at the state meeting. We talked Coach Walker at that time to let us go see the 4A meet that Friday night. And, you know, and I remember Joe breaking the state record that night. And the next day, Roy, another dear friend of ours, came back and got it. But Joe was still that same friendly guy. And still continued to train with that smile on his face. And we all know what Joe DeLoach did in '88. But you know, as life progressed, as grown men, he's, you know, I joke with people, me and Joe, now we're track buddies. We go to track meets like those old guys in the Muppets sitting up in the balcony laughing at each other. But that's us now. So enjoy going to meets with my friend, just hanging out. And as my daughter say, when we're communicating back and forth, we're sending pictures of what we didn't cook, you know. So that's our life now. But everybody, please welcome my friend, Joe DeLoach.
So much, Speedy. Like you say, you know, I never knew his first name back in the day. We all called him Speedy, so you know, I learned later on he actually had a first name, Robert. But I'm honored to have this privilege today to be in this room. Someone said amongst the legends. I've never really thought of myself as that, but I guess, you know, after winning an Olympic gold medal, you know, I can be considered a legend. But really, when it comes to track and field, I was just doing something that I was gifted at doing. I was having fun running. You know, when you come from a family of 13 kids, you know, you have to run. You have to run to the table. You know, so running was my way of survival. Y'all remember Michael Jackson had a song. He said, I'm a lover, not a fighter. You know, when I got into conflicts in high school, I used to say, I'm a runner, not a fighter. I ran away. You know, I believe you should use your gifts. My gift was running, and it led me to the platform that I'm on today. It led me to many places. I've had many celebratory moments in my life, but I know that you can't arrive at such moments without having great people in your life. I don't believe that we accomplish what we accomplish in our lives without having people in our lives. So I have to acknowledge some great people that I've had in my life. You know, starting with friends and family. I actually have a couple of friends that made this journey here with me today to celebrate this moment with me, and I'm thankful to them. Darwin Allen is here. He's a fellow Cougar. Go Cougs! I see you Cougs back there. And Nate Brazil and his wife came to celebrate with me. And so I'm happy for them. My family is here, my wife, Melanie, and our 3 kids, Joshua, Joseph, and their significant others are here. And so having people in your life to support you is really, really important. I had a great coach by the name of Marshall Brown, who was very instrumental in my life outside of my parents. My parents always taught me to believe in myself. You know, having 13 kids, you have to have some supernatural help. So, you know, I grew up in a family of faith, you know, with 13 kids. But my coach, Marshall Brown, you know, I had 2 coaches in my life. I'll talk about them very briefly because they were really, really important in my life, and one really significant mentor. Coach Brown started it off for me. We called him Babe. He was the coach of Bay City High School. He's passed on now. Just last year, he passed on, but Coach Brown was really instrumental. As someone was saying, I ran the 800 meters in middle school, but Coach Brown saw that I was a sprinter. You know, you need someone in your life that can recognize the potential that you have. because potential is not who you are now, but it's who you can become. And that's really, really important. You know, he had eyes for the potential that God had given me, and he knew that I could be a great sprinter. And so he invested a lot of time and energy in my life. Coach Brown was the first one to really teach me the importance of a work ethic. There's a lot of athletes today think that you can get there, wherever there is you want to go, just on talent. I'm here to tell you that that's not true. You have to train hard. In fact, I do a lot of personal training now, and I ask athletes one question that has two significant answers. And that question is, do you want to be good or do you want to be great? And inevitably, they always say, I want to be great. Well, I use that when they are at those moments in their training regimen where it gets really painful and it hurts. Then I kind of bring that back up to them and say, you remember you said you want to be great? Because nothing great in life happens by accident. You have to work very hard. You have to train very hard. You just don't become an Olympic gold medalist. You know, that takes a lot of hard work and effort. You just don't become the state champion, the district champion, the regional champion. I was able to accomplish all of those things with Coach Brown's help. In fact, in high school, I only remember losing 2 races in high school. One was in a semi-final, so it wasn't as significant. But one of those races was to a gentleman who's in this room. We talked about him a little earlier, Roy, the Robot Martin. I see you, Roy, back there. It takes us relays. So I always tell people, not just the wins in your life that's important, but losses in your life are important because it's those losses that help you to realize that you have more work to do. And I remember running against Roy. I'd heard about Roy. Everybody heard about Roy back in the day. They called him Robot, and we hooked up at the Texas relays in the 100 meters. And I'm going to tell you, I had about a 5-10 meter lead on Roy. And all I heard was, I'm like, wow, you know, and I was so disappointed at the end. We all want to win, right? And Roy came back right by me like I was just standing still. And I'm like, this guy here, you know, but Roy was an awesome athlete, and, you know, Roy and I are friends today, but, you know, back in the day, you know, then, you know, I had a lot of respect for Roy as I do now, but that loss really helped me to become the Joe DeLoach that I ended up becoming later on. Roy and I continued to square up when he went to SMU and I went to the University of Houston in the Southwest Conference, and he'll tell you, you know. In fact, I will have one correction to what Speedy said. It wasn't the state record, even though I did break the state 400 meter record. Remember, I was in 4A, Roy was in 5A, but I actually broke the 200 meter national record at 20.4 seconds and had it for one day because of Roy Martin. Thank you, Roy. But that just goes to show you, you know, when we talk about greatness, Roy had a tremendous talent, and so was I. But I needed Roy. But let me tell you about another gentleman in my life. I'm talking about the people in our lives, you know. The other thing that's important is to have a mentor. And I had a great mentor once I transitioned from high school to college, and a great athlete we all heard of by the name of Carl Lewis. And Carl was a mentor to mine. Carl was important in my life as well as Coach Tom Tellez was, because they helped to define for me, to give me a different glimpse of the whole athletic experience. See, I've always told people that having knowledge and having understanding are two different things. To have knowledge is to have the facts, but to have understanding is to have insight into the facts. What do I mean by that? You may know how to drive a car, but when a car breaks down, unless you're a mechanic, you don't know how to fix that car, to get that car back on the road. You have to have understanding for that. And Coach Brown taught us to have understanding about the mechanics of running. And that's what I learned from Tom Tellez, who I believe was one of the greatest collegiate coaches of our time. And I also learned that from Carl Lewis, who helped me to simplify the race. In fact, if you talk to Carl today, he'd probably tell you that he shared a little bit too much with me. But we learned how to dissect the race and how to look at it. And that's important for us athletes because of repetition. I used to always look at Carl and wonder how he could run 9 seconds and 9 seconds, and just keep doing it over and over again. And that's what happens when you have understanding. And so those are the important, significant people. Of course, there's other people in my life as well, but those are the ones who really made a lasting impact on my life as I arrived at a lot of those celebratory moments in my life. And so again, I want to thank you and thank the Texas Track and Field Coaches Association for this award, and I really do appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you.
I do feel like a Sunday school teacher again because I had a minister right behind me preaching it just now. Jolanda Jones was born and raised in Houston's 3rd Ward and moved to Alief ISD to attend high school. At Elsick, she began to exhibit an amazing athleticism that led to her being named an All-American in both basketball and in track and field. Her high jump of 6'1.5" to win the 5A high jump in 1984 still stands as the 6A record 35 years later. She would go on to the University of Houston to compete in track and field for the Cougars, and that amazing athleticism was the perfect base for Jo to become an accomplished heptathlete. At Houston, she would win 3 national titles in the hep in 1986, 87, and 89. She would win a bronze medal in the hep at the 1987 Pan Am Games, and in 1989, she would follow up her NCAA title by winning the USATF National Heptathlon title. But one of her most impressive athletic feats was yet to come. Jo stepped away from the sport for 7 years, but in anticipation of the 1996 Olympics, she went back into training, and in less than 6 months, she qualified for the U.S. Olympic trials in the heptathlon, actually stood in 6th place when she had to withdraw from the competition after 3 events due to severe dehydration. Jolanda Jones has served on the Houston ISD School Board, on the Houston City Council as a highly successful attorney and motivational speaker. Presenting the award to Jolanda today will be her former head coach, Marty Birch, and her former teammate, Laurie Kane.
Okay, can you hear me? All right, so most of you know Jolanda Jones, the lawyer, the author, community activist, HISD trustee, city councilwoman, survivor contestant, television star, 3-time heptathlon champion, and she's a member of various halls of fame, but most importantly, she's an amazing mom to her son, Gio, who happens to be here as well. But we know you know all that stuff, so we thought we'd share a few things that we know about the Jolanda we've known for almost 40 years. So, we are going to give you the top 10 things you might not know about Jolanda Jones.
Did you know that Jolanda Jones has a shoe fetish? She got talked into running AAU track after her 8th grade year because she was given her first pair of spikes. And after that, she was a junior in high school and decided that she would run cross country because those blue shoes looked so good. And she wanted a pair. And then she got to the state meet her junior year and lost her shoes right before the 400. So she had to borrow some spikes from a well-known Herky Walls. Yes, and they fit. And she ran, and she won. That's number 10.
All right, number 9. So much to the chagrin of her coaches, Jolanda hates to stretch out before she runs. I don't know if that's still the case, but you did not know. So you could say, Jo, I challenge you to run 400 meters in 50 seconds. She'd be like, game on, I can do that. Jo, I challenge you to stretch out for 50 seconds. It would be a whole another story.
Number 8, back to that cross country. She got those shoes, and she wound up placing second in state her junior year. First time to run cross country, 2 miles.
Number 7, she not only was a track athlete and All-American, she was a basketball All-American in high school.
Number 6, in high school, she was a member of 2 nationally ranked relay teams, which she anchored, the sprint medley and the 2-mile relay.
This is my favorite, number 5. She won the entire 5A state track champion. She was the champion for the entire state as a team individually. First in the 800, first in the 400, first in the high jump, second in the long jump. That's the whole team title right there.
4 events. Number 4, she's been on numerous U.S. track and field teams, and she has 4 national titles.
Number 3, she was runner-up for the Southwest Conference Athlete of the Decade.
And number 2, this is another Hall of Fame that she's going to add to her other Hall of Fame. Verizon Academic All-American, Texas, Black Sports, University of Houston. All of these Hall of Fames.
And number 1 thing about Jolanda is she, as our friend, is extremely loyal, brutally honest, and one of the best friends anyone could ever ask for. And you know if Jolanda is your friend, she always has your back.
Good evening. So thank you. So I'm really emotional right now because I listen to Joe. He's my teammate. I recruited him. And I peeped, Roy, how you put that picture on Facebook where you were ahead of Joe. I noticed that. But that's another story for another day. I knew Roy because we're all at the same time. But as I listened to what Joe did and all he accomplished, and I saw it every day, because if you were at the University of Houston, then you were training every day for hours a day. You had the best 8 out of 10 sprinters in the world on the track every day, and all of them knew they were the best. So every day was a race. So I'm not at all surprised that they broke records every week, because they broke records. They actually ran fast in practice, truth be told. But I say that to say this. So Joe went on to win the Olympics. He beat Carl. Carl really struggled with that. He was my teammate too. I ran for Santa Monica as well. But you hear all these things about what Joe did, and then you see that I stopped running in 1990. Well, 1990. I won the 1989 United States Heptathlon Championship. And in this age of social media, in this age of young people who think if you happened 5 years ago, you don't exist, and everything now is the greatest, but that's another discussion for another day. People don't remember stuff that happened in the past. It was a really long time ago when I was the Jolanda I am before I am today. And so the gentleman who introduced me talked about how I stepped away from track for 7 years. I didn't step away from track for 7 years. I was forced to retire because I was in an abusive relationship. And so I did not defend my United States Heptathlon Championship because my ex-husband would not allow me to. And every time I see Coach T, because he's my coach, He always cries every time he sees me, and I always start crying because he believes I was his greatest failure. So all that stuff that you heard that I won and all those records that you heard that I said I did it when I was 23 years old. And then I was courageous enough to get out of the relationship, and let me be clear, all I had to do was sleep with my ex-husband once to get my beautiful child. This is my child, Giovanni. But he took so much away from me. And I was in Houston and nobody even knew it. So I'm very lucky to be alive. And so the reason I came out of retirement in '96 was because I used to be great. And I wanted to see if I could get that again. But I didn't have enough time to train. I had been away for 7 years, just basically trying to live, or stay alive rather. And I dehydrated because I didn't have sufficient training. The people I was competing against had been training for years to be there. It is quite remarkable, however, that I qualified for the trials after being away from her for 7 years. But by that time I had a child, and I had to take care of my child. And that was really important to me. And so I'm eternally grateful that I'm getting inducted into a Hall of Fame so remote from when I did what I did. So looking at track is really difficult for me because I always just sort of wonder how great I could have been. And I think I heard the lady who's the president of this organization is Shalinda Spears. Is that right? Okay, so I know you. Because I had one state all by myself, and we tied with Dallas Carter, me and my one person, and them 8, and then you came and did it.
All right now, all right.
I went to UT, right? And you're from Luling, right? And I literally drove through Luling from San Marcos because my son went to Texas State, so I could see where you were from. Now, I did say I had an 8-4 combination. They was 15 minutes apart. And no, I did not lose my shoes. Somebody stole them. I believe it was a coach from Sterling. Yeah, Speedy, your coach. Because he want me to whoop them girls from Sterling in the phone. But I say that to say this. It took a lot for me to get my mind back right after being alive. Because I could very easily be dead. And you cannot tell me O.J. Simpson did not kill Nicole. And I'm thankful you can't. He did. But I say that to say this. That whole domestic violence experience by this country is what caused me to leave my ex. Because I knew he would kill me and get my kid. And I didn't want for him to kill me and get my kid. And raise him to be an abusive man. That was very important to me. And so I'm so very thankful that I don't believe that my best was when I was younger. I'm thankful that I was able to overcome that. And I've got to tell you, there's a reason why I contacted my high school coach. I did want those Adidas Moon shoes so bad, Coach. And I really didn't think black people ran distance, because that's what they said back then, Speedy. But she told me the only way I could get them shoes if I ran cross country. My stupid self ran cross country. I love those shoes. I can still see them today. And Lori, I called her, because my first Hall of Fame I got inducted into was the Verizon Academic All-America Hall of Fame, and the induction ceremonies were here in Dallas, and the tickets were like $250 a piece. That's a lot of money when you're poor. But anyway, Lori read about me being inducted in some kind of way, bogarted her way into the, she read a newspaper, and she was like, "That's my teammate, that's my," and the people were like, "Do you know that woman?" I was like, "Yeah, that's my teammate." Anyway, they let her come in, she didn't have to pay $250. But, so, You know, I'm really thankful that my son gets to see that I used to be good at some stuff. Because to him, I'm old. I'm only 53. But I say that to say this. Regardless of how great you are, whenever you're great, regardless if you fall down and you stumble, whether you fall down and stumble because somebody else caused you to fall down and stumble. And something else, Coach Tolman, no one knew this. I started running track so that I could stay out of the house just a little longer because I'm the oldest of 5. And my dad killed himself. I was with my dad when he killed himself. Nobody knew it. I didn't tell anybody. We were getting evicted. Bet you we lived 12 places the 4 years I was in high school. And I was so ashamed. And I didn't want anybody to know. And I just wanted to grow up and live a better life as an adult than I lived as a child. It turns out I was really good in sports. But more importantly, I'll thank my mom, because I know people don't believe in corporal punishment, but I literally got beat for making 97 A's instead of 100 A's. Because my mother told me, you are not a 97A child. And when I got my first B in 5th grade, because I made A's before that, and I made A's after that, I got punished for the whole summer, couldn't go outside and play. And for this tomboy, going outside and whooping boys was not the best thing to do. So I say that to say this, it doesn't really matter like how good you used to be or how good you are. If you make a mistake, you really should be judged by how you rebound, how you get up, if you get up. So I try not to judge people because you really have no clue what they're going through, and you can look at them and everything can look great. Everything looked great. I wanted everything. But I was trying to kill myself. So I'm really thankful to be here. I'm thankful you guys remember stuff that happened in the 80s. Because that was a long time ago. And so while I'm at it, since I'm up here. So Dick Enberg, the first Hall of Fame I got inducted into, Dick Enberg was the MC of it. He's a great sportscaster, and he heard my story, and he told me in 1999 that I should write a book. I was only 33, about to be 34. I was trying to write a book for what? I haven't lived, and I was very shortly removed from, being alive from my ex-husband, and for years he told me, he says, when you write that book, I'm gonna write the foreword. You have to write the book. And from 99 until last year, he'd call me every year and ask me if I'd written my book because he wanted to write the foreword. And then he fooled around and died in December of 2017. And I said, you know what, Yolanda? It's your fault Dick Enberg did not write the foreword to your book because you would not write a book. Because for whatever reason, I didn't see the value in my story. So I started writing a book and I wrote it, and here it is. It's called Owning My Shit. SHIT is an acronym for suffering hardship and internalizing trauma. And actually the book is written to, first of all, share my story. Because people see me now, I've been on TV and all this other stuff, and they think that everything was always real easy. And I wrote the book for the very reason I think Dick Enberg asked me, or I guess inspired me to write the book, which was to show people that you can make mistakes and you can learn from them, or you can be born into mistakes and you can learn from it, and you can be great, just like Joe said, if you train at it. And so I'm just thankful to be here, and I love my son. His name is Giovanni, and he is my greatest accomplishment. He is in law school, and I just got to see his grades today, and I'm not about to tell his grades, he's shaking his head. But let me be clear, my child has always hated school, which is a real struggle for me, because school was my out. And so anyway, for whatever reason, he got motivated to be a lawyer. He always told me he'd never be a lawyer. And all of a sudden, he found his passion, and he was taking briefcases. When school started, I was like, what's going on? Then he fooled around and is in the top 5% of his class. And I'm like, dude, where's my son? What have you done with him? You mean this is the son I could have had for your whole life? So parents, there's hope. If the kid is struggling right now. So thank you, and if you want to buy my book, you can go to owningmyshit.com. You can buy it. But thank you. I really appreciate the Texas track and field coaches, because you just made me remember. Always, again, it's really difficult for me to think back to my athleticism because I was a tremendous athlete and I got distracted. So thank you. Oh, my girlfriend is here. Where's she at? Cherise. She went to Rice. That's what she was screaming about, Rice.
And let me mention this, I actually had read about some of her challenges that she had during that 7 years off, but I felt like she was the only one that should be telling that story. It shouldn't be somebody else. You experienced that. Let's move on now to Dana LeDuc. 1973, Dana LeDuc moved from Tacoma, Washington to Austin, Texas to attend the University of Texas. He had a brilliant career throwing the shot put in his years at UT. He won the Southwest Conference indoor and outdoor shot put titles in 1974, 75, and 1976. He would top that off, that 1976 season, by going on to win the NCAA Division I shot put and to finish 5th at the U.S. Olympic trials, barely missing the 1976 Olympics in Montreal. A severe injury in 1977 ended Dana's career prematurely, but he would not leave athletics. In 1978, Dana became the first coach at the University of Texas to be named a strength and conditioning coach. In fact, he was one of the first in the nation with that title at the time. It's a very common thing now, but in the 70s, there weren't strength and conditioning coaches at very many places. Dana helped revolutionize full body training to combat joint injuries. Dana would stay at UT until 1992. Then he would move on to positions with the University of Miami, Seattle Seahawks, and the St. Louis Rams until his retirement in 2008. Michael LeDuc will be presented by Michael Lee.
I had written something very nice for Coach LeDuc because he's an outstanding coach. I've known Dana for 30 years and I've had the honor of introducing him. He's been a friend and a mentor for me for many years. He was born obviously in Tacoma, Washington area, but most people didn't know that not only football, basketball, and track. He was one of those guys who had a 32-inch vertical that could stand underneath the goal his senior year, who was left-handed, could slam dunk it right through. He was also an All-American tenor saxophone player, very gifted musically. But he excelled in many areas, but he focused on track and field. He told me one time that, Coach, I played tackle, a guy would get me, I'd block my guy, and another guy went back, quarterback was sack. What's that all about? But he knew in track and field he could really determine his own destiny. He did an outstanding job of that. He threw at when he got to the Golden West, he threw at the Golden West his senior year. And following, he did get a track scholarship at the University of Kansas, but after a while he left Kansas, came to the University of Texas, which he mentioned all his Southwest Conference titles. He had the opportunity, Darrell K. Royal, talked to Dana into starting something as strength and conditioning with Dr. Charles Craven at the University of Texas. And there, he devised, really started thinking about movements. And the one thing I love about Dana, he's a lifelong learner. He really pays attention to the little details. During his career, he was able to, they built the Newhouse Royal Athletic Complex, which he was very important in designing all the things that were going on in that particular complex. He went to the sports and physical education in Moscow in 1987. Dr. Rashid flew him over there at the University of Texas. And there he was added machines, little home machines from Sweden. As a matter of fact, it was so funny, when I was at the University of Texas working for him in the weight room, the kids would say, Coach, how much is on the bar? I said, it's 80 kilos. And they go, well, how much is that? It's 176 pounds. You have to go over and look at the chart. But anyway, that's a sidebar. But the kids would crack me up because they had no idea how much was on the bar. But Dana was incredibly important with the Olympic movements, speed, all the things that we develop today, all the things we look at in all sports as far as development. Dana's been a part of that. I've talked to so many different coaches from different areas, and they all recognize Dana as one of the top leaders in strength and conditioning in all sports. which is very important. Dana loves track and field and was incredible at track and field, but he parlayed that basically into strength coach. He was 14 years, like you said, in the International Football League, 2000 NFL World Champions with the St. Louis Rams. And what I'm really proud about Dana is he cares about people. That's the number one thing. In 2011, he happened to be in Ocean Shores, Washington, where he lives, and he found out the kids in Grace Harbor were having some difficulties. They were just, unemployment was over 17–18%. And what he did was he got me and a few other guys, ex-athletes, to come up and really help him out, work with the kids at Ocean Shores and develop them. And so we have an entire Harbor County coming up every year, and we do a golf tournament auction. To give you an idea, in the last 7 years, we've raised over and this is all Coach Leduc, he's raised over $200,000 for the kids in Ocean Shores or Gray Harbors up there where he lives. About kids, he began working. Coach McBride got him to come down to Texas A&M Corpus Christi in 2015, working developing the track and field athletes, worked with shot and discus people, worked with their strength and conditioning, and really helped them develop track. You know, they said he's retired. He's not retired. He's semi-retired. Dana does what he wants to do when he wants to do it. That's what I love about Dana. And he's very focused on it. Right now, Coach Martz called him a couple of months ago with the new Alliance Football League, and now he's strength and conditioning coach for the Alliance of American Football League for the San Diego Fleet. So he's got practice in the morning, by the way, in San Antonio, so he's got to leave here early and get back to work. But it's my honor and privilege to introduce Dana Lewis Leduc.
I don't know if I'll need this mic.
He's got a big voice.
Yeah, I'm accused of being maybe too loud. Can everybody hear me? Yolanda? Where's Yolanda? Yolanda, where's Yolanda? You're a tough act to follow. And by the way, Yolanda, I coached Turkey Walls at the University of Texas, and I talked to him the other day, and he is a minister down in Orlando. Tell him you said hello. Anyway, I want to thank Coach Cantor, Coach McBride, and the Texas Track and Field Hall of Association for allowing me to be a part of this unbelievable group of athletes, and it's quite humbling. And I hate to get emotional, but you know what? My career started out, I went to a military academy. My dad got out of the Army, and he went to work at Marymount Military Academy. He was making about $3,000 a year in the early '60s. He said, you could help my salary if you go to school here. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you get to go for free. So anyhow, I was out of the house, and I boarded for 5 years away, 5th through 9th grade. And there was about 110 kids, 5th through 9th. We had an entire platoon of Hispanic kids, very wealthy kids from Mexico. The president of Mexico's son was there. It was run by the Dominican Sisters, and we had one Jesuit priest, and we had 3 military people. So it was a ton of military, and we got our knuckles slapped by the nuns. If we didn't get it right, then they'd send you over. They'd line you up 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. If you got called out for spats, whoever was on duty would give you the Board of Education. They'd call you out in the middle of the gymnasium, bend over, grab your ankles, and they'd wail on you. And you're not seeing that anymore. Of course, you won't see that today, but hey, I definitely wanted to stay out of trouble, I'll tell you that right now. So I spent 5 years there. In the 5th grade, I wore size 12 shoe. Now you gotta think of this now. My dad was born 1960. That was about 5 years ago, 91. No more, it might have been, yeah, it was longer, about 8 or 9 years ago he passed away. But he was 14 pounds at birth in 1960. So, I was a big kid. I wore size 12 shoe in the 5th grade, and we had one football team. I was on the 9th grade team when I was in the 5th grade. We didn't have enough people. We had no track and field. we had a track and field day once a year. And this little ball, I threw it like a baseball. I'm left-handed. Nobody knows anything about left-handers, right? I mean, you can't coach a left-handed. You're throwing it with the wrong hand. You got to throw with the other hand. I don't like throwing it with the other hand. And again, we threw it like a baseball. So I played basketball. I loved basketball. I loved to jump. Didn't know that I was doing plyometrics all this time. Any free time I had, I was in the gym. Take my shoes off. We had to be in our uniforms every day, making your bed or they'd rip it apart. Learned a lot of discipline. And so I get to the 9th grade, my brother's a pole vaulter at the high school. I'm gonna have my chance to go to a brand new high school, or I'm gonna get a chance to go where my brother went. And he was a pole vaulter, and so I went to watch him practice when we were on Easter break, and his coach, Tom Sawyer, was his coach. Tom Sawyer, some of my friends have met Tom. He said, son, where are you going to go to school? Now, I know you're coming out of that academy. You can either go to you can either come to Franklin Pierce, the established high school, or you can come to a new one, Washington High School. Well, I said, I'm not sure yet. I have to look at Ford Middle School or Ford Junior High and Keithley Junior High. I want to see who's beating who, because Ford's going to feed Franklin Pierce, Keithley's going to feed the new high school. So I did my research and found out that Keithley was whipping up on Ford. Well, I'm going to the new high school, even though we were going to be sophomores, a brand new school. We're the first graduating class. So I tell my brother, he tells Coach, well, that's great. He said, I'm going to be at the new high school. So Tom Sawyer, I played football. My sophomore year, we had 6 points scored on us all season. And I scored the first touchdown as a defensive tackle. 3 and out. First game in the history of the school, 3 and out. I run through, pick the ball off the guy's the punter's toe and run it 30 yards for a touchdown. I kicked the extra point. That was my dad's claim to fame about me. I scored the first 7 points in the history of this brand new high school. So my dad, oh son, you gotta end up playing football. Notre Dame, Washington, all the schools. I'm like, Dad, as we went on, my junior year, we had 2 classes. They threw us into a varsity schedule against sophomore, junior, seniors. Now we're playing against the guys a year older. We lost some games. I'm like, God dang, I took it hard. And I threw that shot. Sawyer said, you're going to throw the shot. My sophomore year, I threw 47, and I threw the discus 130. And I said, you know what, I really like this shot, the discus, but boy, I don't like getting beat. So my junior year, I worked a little harder at it. I called my coach on the weekends, and I went from 47 to 57 in the shot, and 130 to 170 in the discus. And then my senior year, I went to 63, 11 3/4. The furthest throw in the history of the state was 64 feet 1/4 inch. So I was that far away. This young man had passed away. His parents called me. I was a ½ inch away from breaking his all-time record. And the parents called me. He died as a sophomore, coming back across the mountains from Washington State. And they called me and said, hey, we want you to break our son's record. I said, well, gosh darn, I don't know about that, but I'd love to meet you. Well, I never did break his record, but I got to meet his folks. His name was Ernie Janet. And I decided then that, track and field's going to be my life. Mike, I appreciate you. There's not a whole lot more I can tell you about that. What I can tell you is that track and field has opened up so many doors for me. How many people go as a thrower, and of course the NFL scouts want you to run because you're faster than all the other guys. How many end up with a Super Bowl ring as a coach? What are the odds? Well, I had no idea. There was 3 of us that were using the weight room at the University of Texas. I want to thank my teammates. Bishop Delegowitz, who's passed away, 2-time Olympian from Canada, was in the first World's Strongest Man contest. Jim McGoldrick, who went on to win the NCAA discus, 208 feet back in 1975. I threw 67 feet 1/4 in 1976, left-handed. At that time, it was the furthest any American left-hander had thrown. Again, we didn't have any throws coaches. I go to UT today, Ryan Krauser, he's got somebody for nutrition, he's got somebody for this. It's unbelievable. We had nobody. We just looked at each other is what we did. Coached each other. I can tell you a quick one now. The coaches came up and Of course, Coach Price, God bless Coach Price, my college coach. Of course, Bob Timmons was that's why I went to Kansas originally. I'll back it up. I went to Kansas because you're going to get a kick out of this, my dad being military. So I'm signed with Oregon, Bill Bowerman. I'm going to Prefontaine's in my house. A lot of you guys don't know who Steve Prefontaine is. He's in my house. They're recruiting me. They've got a pretty decent thrower down there, Beachmont. And, you know, this little guy sits down with Coach Bowerman and I can't remember the assistant coach. He went on to take over for Bowerman. But now my dad goes, yeah, that's nice, Dana. He goes, well, they're nice people. You know, so I took a visit. I really liked it. And next thing you know, the NC2A championships are held in Seattle. So Kansas is coming in on me hard. They went 1-2-3 in the NC2A shot put championship in '71. They were called the Pink Elephants from Kansas. You know, it was the home of Jim Ryan. They had great college track there. So they call and say they're going to make a home visit while they're in Seattle. They come down to Tacoma. These three shot putters, Carl Saul, never lost an NC2A championship. Won 6 in a row, Pan American Game. Probably one of the greatest shot putters. I mean, he beat Randy. He's the first guy to beat Randy Matson. I mean, this guy was phenomenal out of Arkansas. 6-time, and he would have won 8. In fact, his freshman year, he was 4th at the Olympic trials. He would have won 8. But back then, they would not let freshmen compete on a varsity level. They had to throw on a freshman team. His number 2 guy was Steve Wilhelm. I don't know if you remember Bruce Wilhelm. He went on to be an Olympic lifter in 1976 on the Olympic team. He was also a big left-handed shot putter that I liked beating because I could brag on it to his brother. Because his brother, when I went as a freshman, Carl was training for '72. Steve Wilhelm was going to law school. They all graduated, and Steve was going to be our coach. So we had all these unbelievable. So when they came into my house, and the 3 of them could not sit down on a 3-person couch. My dad, one of you guys can sit over here, right? When they left, my dad goes, "You're not going to Oregon." I go, "What do you mean, Dad?" Are you kidding me? The way you bring home cats and dogs, you'll be bringing your buddies home eating me out of house and home. I said, "I'll sign with you." There's no way you're going to Oregon. He said, "I'll sign that letter for you to go to Kansas. That's a 36-hour drive. You won't be coming home on the weekend." I'll tell you what, so off to Kansas. Off to Kansas at what? I clicked my heels. I've never been to California. I got back there and the sirens are going off. What's that? Oh, we just got a little tornado blowing through. That's no big thing. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So, let me tell you how I got to Texas. Okay, we're practicing for the Big 8 indoor meet, and by no means are we near as good as Saul, Wilhelm, and Canat. There's myself and Rudy Guevara from Essex Catholic. He was number 2 in the country. I was number 4 in the country. So they got 2 out of the top 4 to replace these 3 guys. We're getting ready for the Big 8 indoor meet here this January. We're inside Allen Fieldhouse. Anybody know anything about Kansas basketball? Okay, you know how good. Well, Wilt Still Chamberlain went there. And he was my idol. I'm like, yeah, there's Wilt. And you know, I would go to Allen Fieldhouse to all the basketball games. So I get a call, my coach, "Hey, you need to come to the office and see me." Bob Timmons. He's like, you know, I'm this tall. He's not a big guy. He coached Jim Ryan, the first high school sub-4-minute mile in the history of the world in high school. That's how he left to Wichita and came to KU and got the head job. So he's looking up the shop and he said, "Coach, what's going on?" He said, "Well, I got a call from the basketball coach. We got a problem." I go, "What's that, Coach?" "He can't conduct practice with you shot putters back there yelling." I said, "Coach, we're trying to get ready for the Big 8 indoor meet." He said, "You're going to have to change your practice times because the coach, he's a little bit hot, you know." I was like, "What? If we change our times, we're going to be running to get to the dining hall." Well, you know how it goes downhill, right? Well, the track program, we got dumped on, and I'm like, well, we changed our times. We had to sprint to get to eat. So anyway, we left Kansas that year in April. It was cold, the old KC airport. Landed, and Bishop, my friend, who I met at a international prep meet in Chicago, he signed with Texas. I hung out with Bishop the whole weekend. It was 85 degrees. I said, "Bishop, I'm coming here." Get back out of Kansas, it ain't gonna work for me. So I transferred to Texas, had a wonderful career, and then Coach Royal comes to me and he says, you know, Dana, I know you missed the Olympic team. Well, I was moving to San Jose like my teammate McGoldrick. I was going to train with Mac Wilkins, a good buddy of mine, Brian Oldfield, all the great, Ron Simpew, all the great throwers of that era. And I was in that next group coming up. I was 22 years old. 1980 would have been ideal. It would have been my time to make the team. And Coach Royal calls me and says, listen, he said, the guys think you can help us. I go, what do you mean by that, Coach? He said, well, apparently some of these guys have been sneaking up to the weight room. Our trainer, Frank Medina, would not, some of you guys may remember Frank Medina, legendary 40-year trainer, little Indian fellow from Haskell Indian College for Coach Royal. Didn't believe in weightlifting. Put a weight vest on him, run him to death, sit-ups in the steam room, and that's it. So anyway, these players would see us out at night, you know, we'd be out there having an adult beverage, and they'd go like, hey, you tough guys lifting weights, huh? You want to arm wrestle? No. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do it, trust me. Oh, no, they'd get half full and they'd be in there going, all right, you want to do it? So we put it up. Okay, go ahead, pull. I said, I told you guys, you got to come up and lift weights. That's how it goes. I mean, you're going to get a lot. So some of these guys start sneaking up. The next year, some of these guys put 7, 8 pounds on, 10 pounds, and 2 or 3 of these guys made all Southwest Conference. So that's how the deal got back to Royal. Even though he was disappointed, he never knew anything about it. He would have probably kicked him off the team. So anyway, he calls me and he says, Dana, guys think you can help us. He said, I know what your degree is. You're going to be a teacher. He said, I'll give you $10,000 a year. I said, Coach, for what? He goes, you know, to be the weight coach. He said, I hired a brain coach, 1956, Land Hewlett. He was the first guy ever in the NC2A to hire an academic counselor, and he called him a brain coach. And he said, I might as well be the one of the first to hire a weight coach. Whatever the hell you're going to do, I don't know. So, we have an old weight room with no weights. First thing he does is send me to DeLand, Florida. This guy by the name of Arthur Jones invented Nautilus. Nautilus flies a jet and we go down there, and I'm fresh off throwing. I mean, I'm stronger than 6 acres of onions now. And I'm telling you what now, this guy's trying to put me on a machine, and he wants me to max it out. I'm like, that's all the weight you have on these machines? It ain't gonna work. Anyway, I said, you know, we gotta go. There's a few things that never go out of stock. Wingtip shoes and Olympic training bars and dumbbells. They can come up with all these new machines, but let's face it, you know, you gotta end up training with 3 weights no matter what. So we came back and we had to buy it because Penn State, Alabama, everybody else had it. And that's how everything got started. It was, you know, my friend Doyle Wilson, great home builder in Austin, flew us in his private jet. We went all over the world looking for weightlifting equipment, and we built one of the finest things to Dr. Rashid, as you mentioned. And I'd say the biggest thing that track and field has done for me, because Mike is pretty much, you know, and again, I am with royalty here, Deloach and Jolanda, and I've watched you guys. I saw Michael Carter throw. I never missed a relays. I was lucky to win the Texas relays 3 years in a row as a collegiate at Texas. Never lost it. I won Kansas and Drake twice, and had a whale of a career. But it opened the door for me to be able to work with people and to take that influence of strength and conditioning on into football. And so I did 32 years in coaching as a strength coach. My goal was to get back home. I went with Dennis Erickson. After 17 years at Texas, my 2 years at Miami, I had Ray Lewis as a freshman, sophomore. I had Warren Sapp as a sophomore, junior. I had The Rock, the most famous movie star on the planet. I had him 2 years. By the way, he writes me dirty in his book. If you read his book about me, he'll tell you what an asshole I am. Because he wanted to do what he wanted to do. No, you're going to do what you need to do. Be a better player. That's what I'm talking about. I didn't come here to lose. So, anyway, you know, I left there, went to Seattle. I got to spend 4 years with my dad. And he passed away about 7 years after that. Get fired for the first time in your life, your lowest low could be. And I never got married. I'm single the whole time. And then, you know, I just, you know, see too many coaches go through divorces. I don't want any part of it. And so, anyway, Coach Vermeil hires me. They're 4-12. My wife at the time, she was not my wife yet. I met her when I was in Miami. It's the best thing that happened to me in Miami. And so I called up and I said, you know, you're teaching school out in Seattle, hold on to our condo. Because I read the paper, I got there in February, I just started the off season, and it said if Ramil doesn't win, he's gone. I got a 2-year contract, but he's after 1 year, I'm out. And then I gotta find another job. And it's not easy. Well, as fate would have it, we get a guy, Trent Green, and then the story, you know, about Kurt Warner, sacking groceries. I was part of that greatest show on turf that scored over 500 points 3 seasons in a row. So I got to train Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Marshall Falk. I got 11 guys in the Hall of Fame. I got a couple more going in this year. That is my contribution. Thanks to track and field. Thanks to track and field, the great world of Russell Place Cup. I'll close out. I know I've been up here probably way too long, but I want to tell my story. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. That has been probably the biggest thing. And then, as Mike said, we started the camp in Washington. The spotted owl took the timber industry down to its knees in this Grace Harbor County. When I was in Seattle, the traffic is so bad. My dad was living in an area that had gone, you know, drive-by shootings. He would not leave. I was here before they were. He's an old military retired master sergeant. He would not leave the neighborhood, regardless of drug busts or drive-bys and everything else. We didn't have a lot growing up, but we had shoes, and we had, you know, it was one of those deals. It was a military, hard-nosed, you know, you save a nickel of every dime you make. And I said, Dad, I want to get a little cabin down there at the beach. I found a cabin for $49,000, and I've held on to it to this day. So that's why we go out in the summer when we had time off before training camp in the NFL, not much time in college, but to be able to go down there and spend time with him. He loved to sing karaoke and drink beer. He was a master musician. He taught me how to play the clarinet. I never had a lesson from anybody. He taught me how to play the clarinet when I was 6 years old and I went to tenor sax. How did I make All-State? How did I go to Osaka, Japan and play in the All-American Youth Band? My dad with an 8th grade education. You know, go figure, right? The greatest generation with no degree. And so, the other thing that it's done to me is it's brought a number of unbelievable people into my life, and you met one of them, Mike Lee. Bill Hefcock, one of my former players from UT, if you stand. Bill Hefcock is an All-American here from Dallas. David Hall, would you stand? David Hall, by the way, David Hall's daughter, Anna, is she's one of the greatest young pentathletes in the country. She made the 21 and under last year at age 17. Wow. She's big time. He was a grad assistant. They called me, hey, we got a guy at 3-sport letter in Michigan. Hey, what? I'll take him, bring him over. Hey, we ended up being buddies all these years. Oscar Jacobson, a fabulous, if you stand, Oscar. And Angie, your wife. I think I had something to do with introducing these two, but Oscar is a 2-time Olympian from Iceland, also a big-time competitor with Michael Carter, and broke all my records in the shot put at Texas. The minute he finished, I knew he was going to be my assistant strength coach. That's the kind of guy I wanted. In the world of strength and conditioning, I think a strength coach who understands the lifts, who's been around track and field, understands what the speed guys are doing. I mean, I had Johnny Lamb Jones. I got to be around Steve Williams, Harold Williams. I got to be around a lot of guys to pick their brains. So as a weight guy, I was able to pick all this up. I think it's a natural fit for a former thrower to get right into that field. They brought people like this into my life, which forever, until I go south, will be the friends that I cherish the most. And last but not least, my beautiful wife, Mary LeDuc. You know that? And she has stuck with me. She waited, I didn't get married until I was 51, and I'll be 66 next year. And so, anyway, short marriage, but we knew each other a long time. Anyway, I don't think there's any chance we're going to split up. Now, I will tell you this. So I've been retired for 10 years from the Rams. We moved back to Austin. So all my former players, they're my kids. I don't have any kids. They're my kids. So Dennis Erickson and Mike Martz, 2 months ago, I get a call. This is the last thing I want to say. And Erickson goes, hey, we're starting a new football league with Bill Polians, a Hall of Fame GM, and and another fellow, Charlie Ebersol, whose dad was the head of NBC Sports. And we got a lot of money. We got a TV deal with CBS, the NFL Network, and it's going to be a minor league program. There's 8 teams. And Erickson goes, I'm going to be in Salt Lake. And I said, Coach, I'm ready to go. It's a 4-month deal, part-time gig, and all 8 teams are in San Antonio right now. I drove up today, and I'm going to leave out of here at 3 in the morning and be back for practice tomorrow morning at 8. And so I said, yeah, Coach Erickson, that sounds like a good deal. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, Mike Martz calls me. And he's been retired in San Diego. He said, Coach, sorry I'm a little late calling you, but what do you think about coming to San Diego and being my strength coach? I said, well, Coach, I'm going to have to call Erickson back and tell him I'm not coming. Here's the deal now. Here's the deal. I have a cousin whose husband is not doing well, and they live in the San Diego area, and he's got about 9 months to live with cancer. I said, I'm pretty sure Coach Erickson's going to understand that. So I took the job with San Diego. We had a 4-day mini camp out there, and I'm in training camp now, and I'm going to tell you, I've been with the guys who just signed a kid from Dallas, DeMontre Moore, who was at A&M, a great defensive lineman. We're getting all these guys. Bishop Sankey, first running back taken in the draft in 2014 out of the University of Washington. All these guys. This is the last chance league. And the first game will be televised. You know, you start to see some commercials. Football doesn't have to end, right, if you're a fan? I'm not really promoting for the league, but in a way I am. So February 9th, tune in. San Diego Fleet. When we go back home at the end of January, we're flying back out here to play the San Antonio Commanders on CBS Sports. So I hope you tune in. God bless you guys. Thanks for all the support.
Thank you, Tatum. Next up, we have Dartmouth's Doc Patton. Doc Patton is a study in persistence and pursuing a dream that once looked impossible. Doc did not even make his high school relays at Lake Highlands High School in North Dallas. So he went to Garden City Community College in Kansas and there began to mature as an athlete. He garnered 8 All-American honors at Garden City, including a junior college national championship in the long jump. He then transferred to TCU, where he would continue to improve and ended up with 10 NCAA Division I All-American honors in his 2 years competing for the Horned Frogs under the coaching of Monty Stratton. Yet he was far from being finished. He continued to compete internationally. He won the U.S. Outdoor 200 title in 2002 and in 2003, as well as winning the silver medal in the 200 at the 2003 World Championships. In 2004, he made the U.S. 4x1 relay and won his first Olympic medal, a silver medal, at the 2004 Olympics. Doc continued to work and improve and made the 2008 Olympic team. But after a very disappointing 2008 Olympics, Doc did not walk away from the sport. No, he continued to improve, he worked harder, and in 2012, at the age of 34, Doc made the U.S. Olympic 4x1 relay and won his second silver medal. Doc will be presented tonight by his former coach, Monty Stratton.
I think the previous introduction just stole all my material. I was really ready to go with all Doc's stats. Some of the impressive things, though, about Doc's high school career, even though he may not have been on the relay, is he was a 24.5 long jumper, 49.9 in the triple, and this is high school, and 21.3, which is what caught my attention in the 200. Now at Garden City, for a city guy going to Garden City, Kansas, it is culture shock. It's not the end of the world, but you can see it. So there is a great motivation for all of the track athletes from metropolitan areas to do really well in school and move on. So Doc was fortunate to be able to move on, and we were doubly fortunate at TCU to talk him into coming to TCU. Now, my jumps coach were jumping up and down because, you know, Doc was jumping out of the pit, and long jump, triple jump, which scared me to death that he was a triple jumper, because I got excited once I found out how fast he was running in the 200. So I made a trip to the Air Force Academy, where Doc was running and jumping, I assume. And once I saw him run the 200 at the Air Force Academy, which is one of the most difficult places, a flat track, even though it's oversized, it's almost like running down to the end of the gym, touching the wall and coming back. You lose all your momentum on a little hairpin turn. But Doc lit it up. And at that time, I didn't need any convincing. Doc did, though. We had to recruit him hard, as everyone else recognized his talent as we did. At TCU, never had anybody quite as versatile who was a world-class sprinter. Doc jumped 27.7 when dated in the long jump. And I really had to try and talk him out of triple jumping because I didn't want him messing up a foot or an ankle or a knee or those things that are common with triple jumpers. But the guy could light it up on the relay, and those of you who know anything about TCU history know that relays were important, and they still are, I hope. But Doc could run on those relays, and that brought a smile to my face. Doc was on an NCAA championship 4x1, and he ran on the 4x2 at the Penn Relays, where we set a national collegiate record that still stands today. So Doc was a premier collegiate relay runner, as well as being able to knock it out in the 200. I didn't realize he was that good in the 100, even though he was an All-American. We had other people who were also fast. We had more speed than most small countries. But Doc was a 10 or 11-time All-America, as was previously stated, from the 60 to the 100 to the 200 to the long jump to the relay. And he had such a wonderful attitude. You know, sprinters are not oftentimes real easy to work with, but Doc was magnificent. Now, moving into his pro career, there's something really a little different about Doc, in that he didn't have such a spectacular collegiate career that he was in demand with agents. But Doc found an agent, kept running with me as his coach. And for those of you who know anything about professional track, especially in the speed events, there's going to be peaks and valleys, and you're going to have good years and bad years, or not as good years. And not everyone, I'm not saying everyone, but oftentimes a sprinter will change coaches if they have a bad year, or they'll change agents if they don't get into the biggest meets. A lot of those people change agents and coaches more often than the Kardashians change boyfriends. Doc stayed in there. He was very loyal. That's one of his great personality traits. He is loyal. And because of his consistency in keeping the same team around him, he had a strength coach who was top-notch, vital. He had a nutritionist. He had a massage therapist. I was able to coach him without worrying about that being taken care of. Now, as a coach, whether it be high school, college, or sometimes in the pros, the coach, the speed coach, will see the athlete 2.5 hours a day. That leaves 22 hours a day for them to mess it up if they want to. So I never had to worry about Doc doing what he was supposed to do and upholding his part of the bargain the 22 hours a day I was not with him. In fact, I really enjoyed the role reversal. At TCU, Doc kind of worked for me. As a pro, I was Doc's employee. I kind of like that. Now, Doc made 3 different USA national teams, or seven USA national teams. What I was trying to say is he made 3 different USA Olympic teams. That's hard to do, maybe even once, especially in the speed events. I may be biased, probably am, but I think the speed events may be the deepest, hardest event to make the Olympic team in the USA. Doc made it 7 times, 3 Olympic teams, 2 Olympic medals, world championship teams, just kept on keeping on. Now, personal best, Doc ran 989 wind legal 2 different times. 983 with a little bit of wind in the semifinals at the Olympic trials in Oregon. And toward the end of his career, you know Father Time is undefeated. Toward the end of Doc's career at the Texas Relays, Doc ran a windy, and it was windy, 9.75. At the time, it was the 5th fastest 100 meters that had ever been run under any circumstances. And all of the age, the bubble gum, the shoestrings, everything that we had Doc tied together with came unraveled because of such an amazing amount of turnover and force that he was applying to the track. That may have been kind of the beginning of retirement looking good. Doc can confirm or deny that. I want to tell you, Doc is special to me, not because he was fast or that he jumped far or that he ran great on relays. Doc is a loyal friend, and it's my pleasure to introduce Darvis Doc Patton.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate that. Just want to say thank you to Texas Track and Field Coach Association for nominating me here today. Also, congratulations to all the inductees here. I'm honored to be amongst a great class. I'm kind of like the run of the litter here. I'm kind of in awe, honestly. But I know this award typically is for acknowledging my accomplishments, but at the end of the day, I want to talk about more of my not-so-good moments. And if you are a track and field fan and a fan of relays between 2008 and 2011, you kind of know my story. And for those who don't know my story, I'll try to wrap it up. Matter of fact, I remember I was talking to Stuart about how long I have to talk. He said 8 to 10 minutes. I was like, heesh, man, I'm a sprinter. I can knock this out in 9.89 seconds. I'm trying to go as long. It'll be brief. But for those who don't know my story, I want to talk about just the bad times. And I remember in 2000, it started in 2008, Olympic Games. I made my second Olympic team in the 100-meter final. Get ready to go. And I'll never forget, there was a gentleman in the stand that said, "Let's go USA." And at that moment, I was like, I'm about to be the Olympic champion in the 100. I'm representing the United States. Now, the guy named Usain Bolt had a whole nother plan. That changed that, but anyway, I knew I had the 4x1 to kind of redeem myself. Well, I'm running the 4x1 and I got the baton, I'm flying around the curve doing what I do, and boom. Drop the baton. Yeah, so you know, yeah, that was me. I'm that guy. But I'm thinking, you know what, it happens. You know, bad things happen in sports, you redeem yourself, you come back. 2009, the following year, you know what, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna redeem myself. Well, 2009, I make the team in the 100 again, 4x1. Well, the 100-meter final, I'm like, you know what, not this time, Bo. I'm not gonna get last. He had different plans. Were the same from 08, and I got last again, you know, in the 100. But I'm thinking, you know what, I have the 4x1. I'll redeem myself. And I'm rolling, man. I'm rolling around the track. And this time they say, hey, no, you run an anchor. Anchor? For Team USA, me? Oh, yeah. It's all I ever wanted. Get the baton, and I'm flying down and got one of the fastest times going to the final, and I go back to the mix zone, and one of my teammates come to me and say, hey, man, we got disqualified. Disqualified? Well, whose fault was it? I said, disqualified for what? Well, they say you got a baton early in the exchange zone. Like, who's ever been disqualified for getting the stick early with me? I'm the one that got the stick early. So at this point in my career, I'm thinking like, man, I gotta redeem myself. So 2011 come along, and it's my time to redeem myself. 2011, I think that there's no way what happened in 2008, 2009 could ever happen again, like ever, right? Well, this time I'm making it to 200. And I remember running the 200, I had some guy in my heat, named Usain Bolt. I think good, baby. I don't even make it out of the semifinal. And for me, that's kind of devastating because, you know, I got the U.S. across my chest. I'm a sprinter for the United States of America. I'm going to at least make the final. I didn't. And so, but you know what I'm thinking? This is my time. I'm on the 4x1. Like, they got no trust in me. They put it in me again, and I'm going to show that we going to at least get a medal. At least, I'm going to make the podium. I'm going to at least do that. And this time, man, I'm determined. I'm third leg, and I'm rolling around the curve. And I just happened to hit the biggest guy in the sport of track and field. And before you know it, man, I tumble. I'm on the ground. On the ground, me and the baton lay together, consoling one another. At that moment, that's all I got. But at that moment, I'm thinking, really? Like, seriously, like this has happened to me again on a national scene, 3 consecutive teams in a row. Like, I'm done. So it got me thinking, like, how did I manage to get through those times? And if I think about each scenario, it's very simple. It's always been support of my family and my friends, hands down. After 2008, after the whole relay debacle, in true mommy form, my mom sitting right there, love you. Oh, baby, it'll be all right. I'm still proud of you. And I'm thinking, like that's all you got? But those moments kind of resonate now, you know? After 2009, it happened again, and I remember I was at a friend, buddy of mine, Johnny Collins, he's here in the audience, and we eating dinner or something, he says, you gotta step your game up, ain't you? And that's all he said, and I thought, I guess I'm gonna have to step the game up. And but 2011 hurt. 2011 hurt a lot because it's now 3 times that this has happened to me. And I remember, because I got hurt, I broke my clavicle, and I ended up going to I was in Daegu, Korea, so I'm in a Korean hospital, which is a whole nother story within itself. But I remember I get back to the hotel where we were, and my biggest fan of all time, and a main supporter, my lovely wife, sitting out there, man, and this time I'm contemplating, I'm done, and I'm crying. I mean like the snot bubble cry, like hard. And this is Skype. We're not Facebook. We're on Skype, and she's allowing me just to, you know, bawl my guts out. And all she asked me was, you know, what can I do for you? What do you need me to do? And I'm like, you're 13 hours away by a flight, which is a day ahead or whatever. And I'm thinking, it's always been a support. And so I remember coming home at the end of that season, I got a sling on my shoulder. I remember coming to the terminal, and I'm thinking, man, I just don't want to face anybody right now. And because you have those moments where you don't want to talk to anybody, see anybody, you just want to be by yourself. Well, I come through the international terminal, and I'll never forget, it was Labor Day, and there was all my family, all my friends there to support me. And it's because of that support, man, has allowed me to not let the opinions shape my purpose. And come win, lose, or fall, my family and friends have always had my support. So I know that I'm here, you know, receiving this, but all of them deserve it. And so I'm thankful for you guys. Thanks for showing up once again, support me, and I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Raymond Pierre was a very good high school 400-meter runner when he got 3rd place in the 5A 400 in 1985 for Fort Bend Willow Ridge High School. Baylor had not yet become known as Quarter Miler U in 1985, but Clyde Hart had a goal of making Waco a 400-meter mecca. and Raymond Pierre was his first great quarter miler. Raymond would begin making waves when he won the Pan Am Games 400 after his sophomore year at Baylor. Raymond would go on to receive 10 All-American accolades at Baylor. But he would solidify his spot in Baylor lore when he became the first Bear to win a track and field NCAA Division I title in the 400, winning the national championship with a stunning time of 44.59 in Provo, Utah on June the 3rd, 1989. Raymond would continue that senior season by running on the U.S. second place silver medal 4x4 relay at the World Cup. He continued to train under Clyde Hart and would win a silver medal with the U.S. 4x4 relay at the 1991 World Championships. After retirement from running, Raymond continued in the sport as a starter. And today he is one of the very best starters in the business. I have the privilege of working with him at several meets each year, and he is one of the absolute best in the business. Tonight, Raymond will be presented by John Simpson.
Coach Henderson.
Good afternoon, good evening. By the way, I'm not John Simpson. He's a light-skinned guy. He ran with Raymond at Willow Ridge and also at Baylor. Raymond called me and asked me if I would come up to do this for him, which it's a great honor for me. But let me tell you a few stories about Raymond. Raymond came to me at Willow Ridge High School as a freshman. I met him as an 8th grader. As a freshman, he came in, we made the announcement, anybody who wanted to run track, please sign up and come to the field house. Raymond came to the field house, and he introduced himself, and at the particular time, Willow Ridge was 2 years old, and everybody at Willow Ridge was a sprinter. I didn't have any quarter miles, and I, like Clyde, I needed quarter miles. Quarter miles can do anything. So Raymond came up and said, Coach, I want to run track. I said, what do you run? He said, I run the 400, but I can sprint. And I didn't ask him any more questions. I said, be quiet. You're a quarter miler. And looking at Raymond, he came in, he was the worst walking guy. Each one of his feet went in different directions. So we tried to get him corrected. We ran lines across the football field, up and down the track. Didn't do any good. When Raymond got on the track to run, everything went straight down the track. I said, I'm going to be a good coach or a great coach and leave him alone. So, you know, as a track coach, one year Raymond came to me and he was a spokesman because Raymond was a son I never had. He came to me and said, Coach, I always run ankle leg on the 4x4. Let me run first and we'll get way ahead. I said, Raymond, if we do this, we're going to run a slower time. We had ran 3:11 prior to this. The day we ran Raymond first, we ran 3:18. And I had no other problems with Raymond and the team saying, let me run first. Raymond came up in an unusual year. You know, we had the robot, we had Michael Johnson, we had Joe DeLoach. We ran at the AP George relays in Rosenberg one year. We had ran 3:11. We were 15 yards ahead going to curve. Everybody else was getting the baton at the start line. Raymond got the baton and held it in the middle. As he got in the curve, he decided he wanted to adjust it. He hit it against his body. The baton went flying 15 yards in the air. Everybody passed him. He had to go back because he was in full stride. Everybody had to go back or he had to go back 15 yards to pick up the baton. As a result, we got third place. We missed it by a couple of tenths, and at that particular time, he was only taking 2 to the regionals, so we missed it. We ran in the regionals in the 4x1. Raymond was the ankle leg, and we was ahead at one time until Joe DeLoach got the baton. So, you know, it was that kind of year. The competition in track was great. If you didn't run under 41, you didn't go to the regional meet or the state meet. So Raymond was fortunate where he won the 400, went to the state meet, and got third behind those great guys that was running, Michael and Robot. But the unusual thing about Raymond, what I have to do now, even though I go to Austin every year to work the state track meet, I have to stop at this particular place that I introduced Raymond to and buy him some sausage in LaGrange. And the most unusual thing about getting the sausage at LaGrange, they didn't have parking in the front. You had to go to the back. I said, Raymond, we're not going to the back because of our color. Everybody going back. So every year, even now, when he called and asked me if I would come up and do this, he said, are you going by LaGrange? And get me some sausage. So that's a tradition we have. Every year, we go by LaGrange, or I go by LaGrange and pick up him some sausage, take it to him at the state track meet. So it's an honor for me to introduce him, and with this, Raymond Pierre.
Half of it's mine. Thank you very much.
I want to say something that's kind of off script, but Mr. Patton, that was that really hit close to home. What you were talking. Where'd you go? There you go. And that was close to home. What you talked about there. You know, I think back. It made me think of what was that Charlie Brown cartoon. It was a movie cartoon with Charlie Brown. You're a good man, Charlie Brown, or something Charlie Brown. There's a point where Charlie Brown goes and loses that spelling bee, completely blows it, has to get on the plane by himself, come back home by himself, nobody's here to meet him, gets off the plane, and the first thing he finds is Lucy just playing with a football by herself. He goes, he tries to kick it, of course she moves it out of the way and he flies in the air. And she goes, while he's laying there, looks down at him and says, welcome home, Charlie Brown. You know, I look at that, I think about that, and I say, you know, I think we've all had moments like that. I wanted to also address getting the baton early, okay? It happened in 2000, when was the last Olympiad? It's 2019, we're about to have one in 2020. So 2016, the US team got disqualified in the finals for getting the baton early. The IAAF decided, am I right, Jim? The IAAF decided, all right, well, you know, we're done with this whole early baton thing. So partially thanks to you, sir, that rule is now gone. We now, as the IAAF now has a 30-meter exchange zone. USATF now has a 30-meter exchange zone. NCAA now has a 30-meter exchange zone. You can now not get the baton early, you can only get it late. Okay, so we're waiting for high school to come around. They always take forever to come around to stuff, but we've got that coming. So I've never been a big fan of talking about myself. I personally prefer listening to other people's stories than my own, so it's hard for me to stand here in front of a crowd and talk about my myself, but focus on myself for this brief time. But when I look back at my track life, I guess I can understand why some people kind of find it interesting. It's not the wonderful. By the way, I actually came here to see you, Joe. I've seen the back of you for so long. It's nice to be able to see the front of you for a change. This is what the front of Joe Coach looks like, ladies and gentlemen. There's not a whole lot of people to see now. That was a comment Coach Henderson had made several times while I was running. It's nice and I know what your butt looks like pretty good. I've run on 12 USA teams, traveled all over the world. Spain, UK, France, Italy, Germany, Greece, Austria, Brazil, Jamaica, Yugoslavia, which is a country that doesn't even exist anymore. Monte Carlo, whatever the hell that is, I'm told it's a country. But everywhere that I go around the world, people are floored when I tell them, and I mean everywhere I go, people are floored when I tell them that just outside of Houston is a place called San Jacinto Junior College that housed the only solid white track with black lines. It doesn't exist anymore. It remains one of the coolest, most memorable surfaces I ever ran on, and people to this day still think I'm lying about it. Does anybody here remember that track? Wonderful. But to be perfectly honest, the story of my track life was filled with a lot of happy accidents. Success is not accidental, as Joe said. It is a combination of preparation, but there's a little bit of luck involved too. And I can say that my track life was filled with a lot of happy accidents. For instance, that albino track that I just described was, that is actually where I won my first high school regionals. Qualified for state, I believe it was my junior year at Willow Ridge, and ran my first 47-second quarter mile. By the time I got to my senior year, and Coach Henderson was right, I had not won state at all. It was still good enough to advance into a nice D1 college, but when you're in Texas, you don't have to win state. You'll still be better than most other people in the country. Texas knows that. But my senior year, I remember running at the very first meet of the season, my senior year at Willow Ridge High School, and accidentally ran a 46-second quarter. When I got to, Coach Henderson also taught driver's ed. I got to driver's ed class, and that was when he told me that was the #1 time in the nation. That was pretty cool. And so, yes, and the best part of going to the state meet is stopping off at LaGrange and picking up some smoked sausage there. I don't even know what else they sell there, but that stuff there is just fantastic. If you ever get to LaGrange, just ask around, you'll find the place. So yeah, you know, when you run the #1 time in the nation, you're going to get recruited by a couple of colleges. You know, it just happens. Baylor was one of them. They got my attention. They weren't really in my radar. You know, how Baylor ended up in my radar was they sent me a newspaper clipping, showed their mile relay running 3:01, which I thought was impossible. Okay, if you're in a high school that's running 3:12, 3:13, 3:11, 3:01 that sounds pretty fast. And I figured, well, heck, you know, if they figured out how to do that, I definitely got to run for them. So I did. And so by my sophomore year, you know, you got to figure stuff out as a freshman, especially the dining hall. But by the time you're at a sophomore, you kind of get stuff figured out. And, I accidentally broke the world record in the 400 meters on this tiny orange and white track in Oklahoma City. Anybody remember the tiny orange and white bank tracks? Okay, not a whole lot of you remember it, but that was actually quite the surface to run on there. It sounded like a thunderstorm anytime a group of runners was running on the thing. And I think it really made a lot of runners really great, being able to run on that surface before getting out and being able to open it up on an outdoor track. But I ran on that tiny little mouse of a track and ended up having some pretty good success on that thing. And my mother, who's sitting back there recording me right now, she said, Raymond, why is it that you keep calling home and talking about all of these races that you're winning and these records that you're breaking, but I'm not seeing you on TV with the USA uniform?